All right, everybody, welcome back to the Adventure RX podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nick Anderson with Pinpoint Physical Therapy, located in Rocky River, Ohio. Today, I'm excited to have on some local talent, Freddy Brideweser. He is a Canton, Ohio native, one of the homies out at Brandywine ski area. Had a fun competitive ski career. I'd love to get into that, doing some coaching now. So, Freddie, appreciate your time today, and let's have a little chat. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, what have you been up to this summer?
So I definitely like to keep busy. I bought a Harley. I never had a street bike before.
Nice.
Had some buddies give me they were bad influences on me, so I've been riding that thing as much as I possibly can. And then I race motocross, golf. When time provides, or travel, or whatever. I love to surf. That's kind of my biggest passion right now is surfing.
Yeah,
Being from Ohio, it's kind of funny, but Lake Erie it has waves sometimes, not in the summertime, but September through the winter time, you can usually get out there, put some big wetsuits on and be good.
yeah,
Um,
I see you crazy guys out there when I drive by sometimes.
and it's funny, like I said, everybody says we're stuck in Ohio, but it's kind of a mindset we really embraced,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
just got to make the best of it. I got a bunch of buddies that kind of have the same mindset. We're never not doing something, whether it's riding our motorcycles or surfing on Lake Erie.
yeah. Ken and the Kenny and the Stuck in Ohio crew, they're good dudes.
Yep.
I think it's almost like a little ironic because it's people see it as like derogatory, the Stuck in Ohio brand, if you don't really know what it is all about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, make it
And those
flat.
guys are awesome.
Yeah, they're great, man. They got some stuff coming out in the fall, some video projects coming out. I'm excited for.
Awesome.
Gonna have them on the podcast once they get closer to that. So cool,
Yeah, I feel
man.
like Ohio's getting way too much hate over the last couple of years. It's not Colorado, it's not California, but we got everything. I can go mountain biking, I can go skiing, you can do it all. It's not great, but at least you can do it. Um, so yeah, this will be home for a while.
Yeah, I think Cleveland. Well, maybe a lot of it's the Cleveland Browns get a bad rap nationally, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
I'm a
yeah,
big football fan too, so
minus the vertical elevation. I mean, there's a bit of everything. There's a lot of water sports. I'm into whitewater kayaking, and we have some
nice.
spots around that we can hit. Are they great? No, but they're close and accessible, and we make the best of it. So,
Fills the void.
what do growing up in Northeast Ohio, the skiing is pretty limited as far as vertical elevation. Got Boston Mills, Brandywine, um, Alpine Valley, Peak and Peaks drivable. Snow Trails is drivable. But what was like for you? What was the advantage of growing up in an area like this?
I always tell people it's being able to ski every day because we have night skiing. You think of the kids that are from the East Coast. Um, the lifts close at 3 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock.
Right.
And out west, it's just there's some places that you can ski at night, but it's not really readily available. Being in Canton, I was 45, 50 minutes away, and luckily I had parents that loved to ski just as much as we did. So we skied at least 3 times a week. And it was, you get out of school at 3 o'clock, you run up there, ski for a few hours, and it's just kind of the reps. You know, we didn't have the biggest jumps, obviously. So that was kind of I always feel like I was chasing, some jump tricks throughout my career. But, rails, I've hit a lot of rails in my day. And that's kind of the benefit of being in Ohio.
Yeah, you get the hot laps and at small mountains. You see, some of the rope tow parks too. I was talking with Will about it. It's like you don't need that much vertical elevation to be a very good rail skier. You just repetition. I'm sure you know George Brown, who's out west now. One of the most dedicated kids I saw growing up, and he was out there every night hiking, 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 lapping. It's fun to see.
I love seeing the new kids, but I always tell people, I use his Georgia an example. I'll never forget seeing him years and years ago. It just, was super dedicated. You could tell he was, wanted to get better, and I love to see it. And it's sick to see him what he's doing now. And yeah, so big shout out to George Brown.
Yeah, for sure. How did you get into the competitive side of things? Was it like a natural thing growing up? I know there's USASA and some smaller stuff out our way, but how did
Yeah.
that really progress for you?
Um, so I have a twin brother, Jerry. Him and I, just being brothers, we were always competitive with everything we did. Friendly competitors, but um, I think just the little competitions we did, the big airs and stuff. And then there was an event called the Next Snow Search. It was by Sports Illustrated for kids.
Okay.
I think we did that when we were like, it was like 3 years, 11, 12, and 13. And they'd have stops all over the United States and in Canada. And if you'd win that event, you'd qualify for the finals, which was, 1 year was in Keystone, and the next 2 years were in Killington, Vermont. And that was kind of the first, like, okay, this is like one. I was way overwhelmed. Being from Ohio, you think you're the best thing since sliced bread,
Right.
and then you go out there, you're like, holy cow, I'm way behind.
Yeah.
But that kind of being behind really gave you drive. You're like, all right, I want to be something. So that's kind of where it started, was the next snow, and then just um, the nice thing about Ohio, we had tons of rail jams, big airs. It seemed like kind of that 2006 to 2000, like early 2010s. We had tons of competitions every weekend, big airs, rail jams, slope styles, and then it just a natural progression from there. You do the local stuff, and then start branching out from there.
At what point did you get out west?
So that first, I think it was 11 is when we qualified for next snow search and went to Keystone. Yeah, it was me, my brother qualified, I qualified, and then it was my dad took us. And again, my dad's he's the man, loves to ski just as probably more than us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got on a plane, and I remember like I get altitude sickness really bad. I was throwing up real bad the first couple of days, and you show up and there's these massive jumps, and we're these little kids. We're like, what are we doing here? Um, but that was the first kind of grasp of being out west. And again, that was we went out west, and then really I spent most of my growing up and kind of perfecting my skill. It was more in the Midwest than the East Coast.
Gotcha. So you'd take like the trips out west, occasionally, but most of the year, most of the ski season was spent here in East Coast.
Yep, I think it was like we did one family trip to Keystone for like 2 weeks over Christmas time.
Gotcha.
When I think we were like freshmen or high school. And that was kind of the only time we really made a trip out there. Everything was always at the East Coast. Um, and then once my competitive, everything was about a competition. It was a lot of East Coast competitions, but then there was a couple that we did. There was one in Aspen Open, the Gatorade Free Flow Tour.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I did that, and that's kind of where it was like really like, okay, this is getting serious.
yeah. I think didn't Holiday Valley host a Gatorade free flow?
Yep,
Yeah. Did
yep,
you
that
do
was
did you do that one?
yes. That Gatorade's kind of like next snow. They had all these stops all over the
Hmm.
U.S. So if you won that, you qualified for the finals. So I won at Holiday Valley, which qualified for me for the finals at Snow Base in Utah. And again, that was another like, okay, like maybe I could, do this sort of. And that really kind of kickstarted my career.
Yeah. At what point did you? At what point could you call it a career? Like it's. I think it's different now with kids growing up. I think there's more money, but it's dispersed more. There's more talent. Obviously, with there's more skiers, there's more talent. There's more money, but it's just spread out. I think differently than it was like when you were going through all of that. So, like talk to us about that side of things. Like how did you go from I'm competing to now this is my job or like
Yep.
a career.
Well, obviously back then, we weren't counting Instagram followers. We weren't, I was making YouTube videos and, sending DVDs into sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Writing out letters. That doesn't happen anymore. And,
Right.
kids always, how do I get sponsored? Well, I don't know. Send a DVD into,
That
the
might get
Armada,
some
see
that
what
might get
happens.
some attention nowadays.
It might get
Send
some
an
attention.
actual DVD in, yeah.
Um, so that obviously that it's way different now. But, and kind of you got some support early on, some brands help with gear, and then it kind of progressed. You get a little bit of travel money, and then um, things kind of progress from there. Um, you know,
Cool. Yeah, it's always interesting for me because I was never talented enough to like get to that point. So I've always wondered like what is that progression like into getting like the flow team, and then you get some good gear, and
so
then get some
back then it was
competition.
all about results,
Okay.
competition results. At least in my world, there was film guys back. Movies were so big back then.
Right.
Um, I just I love competing. Um, it made me incredibly nervous,
Hmm.
but I loved every second of it. When I look back, I kind of wish I would have focused a little bit more on filming and stuff like that. But it was more just, you'd follow world ranking points, and
Right.
I joke about it now. It's like, but we were every day you'd do a competition, you'd follow that stuff. Um, which was fun back then, but it was almost it kind of consumed you. And you're just trying to qualify for the next events. Like I said, it's crazy. You start, at the Boston Mills Big Air, and then you kind of do like a Seven Springs Big Air, and then like the Gatorade Free Throw Tour pops up, and you do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you win that, and then you qualify to something big, and then there's like it's a whole circuit. There's a rep tour you qualify for. You do those, you do well in those. You can get into NORAMs and World Cups, and that was kind of where my peak was. Qualify for a few World Cups, which was awesome. Never skied
Awesome.
very well, got incredible, but I definitely take pride in that I was able to do that, especially as an American. There's 100 guys fighting for 10 spots.
Right. No, that's a huge deal. That's great. Where were the World Cups when you did them?
Mammoth. I did two in Mammoth and one in Calgary.
Awesome. No, that's
And that
awesome,
was
man. I never, like, I knew that you skied at a high level. I never knew. Like, we never had an in-depth conversation about it. So that's great, man. That's
it was I think the one year. Um, Henrik Arlo dropped after me, and Oystein Broughton, won the gold medal. He was before me in the qualifying. I mean, that's like, again, you envy those guys, but for me, I was just happy to be a part of it.
yeah, yeah. Just being
And
around
I did a
doing it.
lot of, just that energy it's intense. And for me, what my biggest regret is just, I just should have taken it in more, like, I just got overly nervous, and I compared myself like, oh, that guy's doing this. I got to try to this. I should have just skied to my potential,
Hmm.
and I probably would have skied a lot better. But hindsight's 2020.
Do you think overall the competition side of things is a good thing for the sport?
100%. I think you could look at everything as a competition. I'll throw a rock farther than you.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's intense. People, you look at what guys are doing now, and I can't even fathom,
Yeah. It's
doing
nothing.
triples and stuff like that. I think it's great. It's just some people have the knack for it, some people don't. Um, everybody's gonna hate on it a little bit, but I think it's kind of funny how the way the sport's going. You have your kind of more like swervy, doing little butters and not as like high risk tricks, but they're fun, which I can respect. Um, but you watch a guy, I even know the guy's doing like Mac forehand. I love watching him, and you just see the stuff he's doing. Like, how is this even possible? Um, it's just two different things, and there's two kind of different styles now.
Yeah, I think you still have, like especially now you just need a phone, right? You have like the creative side of filming and pushing creativity and the boundaries that way. And of
Yeah,
course, you still have the big groups filming, the big segments each year. And then you got the competition side. I love to see guys that do both, right?
but yeah, 100%.
They're filming, but they're still out competing. Like I know Tom doesn't compete, at super high level stuff, but I mean he probably could. But guys like
Yeah.
A Hall and Tom, where they're really
That
hitting
was the first one that came to mind is Alex Hall. I ski with him a ton back then. It was crazy. Um, no disrespect to him, but it was I'd see him on a start list. Like, A Hall's right there. It's no big
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
And then one summer happened, the next winter happened, he came up. I think we were in Calgary at a NORAM. And I was like, holy cow, this guy can ski.
Yeah,
So mad respect to him. But he's kind of one of those guys, he can kind of turn the switch on and off, get in that competition mindset, but also go out and, film street parts and do fun little things, which is cool.
for sure. He's one of the goats. As you did all the years of competing. Well, how long did you compete for?
So it really started getting serious. I was probably like junior and senior year of high school started. My dad and I scoured, mainly the East Coast, almost every weekend through the winter. It's funny, we before the school year started, I'd meet with the superintendent and kind of go over my schedule, and say, hey, I want to miss like 45 days of school.
Yeah,
And this is why, it's not just because I'm messing around. Like
yeah,
I want this to be a career.
right.
And so him and I put a lot of miles in our Outback. Those are some of the best memories. I loved every second of it. Definitely some grinds. You basically we'd leave Thursday, get there Friday, ski a little bit Friday, compete Saturday, and drive home to be home Sunday, and then do it all over again.
Yeah,
Um,
do it
but
again.
it was awesome, and that's I think I pros and cons. Obviously, the only practice I was really doing was the practice at the event where some guys were skiing all week long. But
Was
that was kind of I skied. What'd you say?
was there anything that as the career progressed that you maybe it was age, maybe it was injury that you thought maybe I should slow down with this or time to bow out. I know it's if you're at that elite level, you see it across athletes of all sports. It some stick around a little bit too long and some call it quits a little too early. Like maybe we could we like to watch him. Hope like Andrew Luck is an example. Like man, I'd love to
Yeah.
see him play a little bit more. But yeah, tell me about that process.
Joe Flacco's going to be good this year, though. He's going to be strong as nails. No problems.
That's what they say. Well, we'll see.
No, so like I guess real back, to go back a second on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
kind of
go ahead.
the progression. So it was, high school was real busy in the East Coast, and then after high school, I based myself in Colorado, and that was kind of my prime. Um, it was either go to college. I took one online class. I always joke. I have a one credit in sociology, and it was nonsense. But I was kind of like battling, like, well, do I go to the gym and go to Woodward and jump on trampolines after I ski, or do I sit and write essays or whatever you do in
Right.
college? Um, so I really put every bit of focus there. So I based in Colorado, and then I traveled all over the world for 3 solid years. That was like doing the Rev Tours, doing the World Cups. I spent a lot of time in Europe doing, Europe has a whole nother slew of events that were awesome. And that's kind of where it really started getting more intense. With good intense, I guess. Um, but so I did those 3 years, and then that summer I went down to Australia and New Zealand for about 2 months. And it kind of like what you're saying, it just see fear. It's hard. I wouldn't admit that, when I was 22, but at 31, it was just fear. You look at these tricks, you're looking at a 100-foot jump, you're like, do I want to do 3 flips? Can I do three? And that's kind of like, and then that was kind of like, all right, the writing's on the wall, and you kind of weigh your options and say, well, what am I going to do now? And then I found some other avenues in the sport that kind of then unfortunately ended in my demise.
Gotcha.
But really, it was just basically I wasn't making very much money. I was never going to be number one, which is fine. And then it was like you kind of weigh, risk versus reward here. Um,
Right. Yeah, I think that really every level of sport is like that. Where skiing and the action sports, I think, are even a better example because it's the money's at the top, like the top 1%, right? Has 99% of the big sponsors and everything, money coming in, and there's certainly creative ways to make it in the ski industry. I was talking with Will about their model of the traveling circus and everything. It's different, it's creative, but they've made 15, 20 year career out of it,
yeah,
and it's so cool to see. So there's certainly creative ways of doing it, but I think that like the competition side, like you're saying, it's if you're not sending it, you're not willing to put it on the line. It's like, well, where do we go from here?
Yeah, what are we doing here? And that was I think I did an event. There was an event in New Zealand that I skied okay. There was some tricks I probably should have done that I didn't. Again, I was just scared. And I never would have admitted that back then, but now I was like, I just didn't feel like I had it. Um, and then I think my last event was actually in China, was my last official event. The jumps weren't very big. There were some fun rails, so I think I got like six or something like that. Um, I was able to do like some pretty hard rail tricks, but only had to do some mellow jump tricks, which was able to give me a good result. But that was kind of like, let me see if I can find another avenue here.
Yeah. What is so you're doing some coaching now.
Yep.
What is your ski life looking like now? I mean, I know I see you out there all the time at Brandywine.
So it was freestyle boot camps at Boston, or it's at Brandywine, and I actually did freestyle boot camp when I was like, I think I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I always say that's kind of my claim to fame. It was on Monday nights back then, and I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's good for younger kids, and we have some kids that are 15, 16, that just I think I never had like an official coach, and I had guys that helped me a lot, but never had a guy like with me every single day.
Right.
Um, but I think it's really beneficial, to learn the correct way, and that obviously it's safer that way. Um, and it's just, I think the kids meet other kids that are in the park, and um, I have a blast doing it. I like seeing people, progress and whatnot. Obviously, there's some, you always have the kids, no disrespect, but that are kind of there as fillers. Um, that kind of bums me out. But it only takes one person to really want to get better.
Hmm.
Whether it's you're sliding your first rail or you're doing your first 900. I'm stoked either way.
Right.
Um, Last couple of years, we have a good group of kids that, yeah, I honestly look forward to it every like, all right, Tuesday night I get to go ski with the boys.
Nice.
Um, so, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'll probably do that for the foreseeable future. Just it's something to do, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it's fun. I see you guys out there hyping each other up
Yeah,
Tuesday
and
night.
that's kind of how it is, man. And you get it, action sports. We can be kind of ruthless to our buddies. It's all in good fun.
Right.
Um, but and that's kind of comes back to your original questions about competition. e- Everybody wants to be the guy and wants to be the best. So it's, hey, do that 720. You won't do that 720, or you do a backflip. I know you can't do that. And then that kind of eggs everybody on. And it's all fun banter in a safe environment. But that's kind of what I like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. And I think with skiing, I know it's expensive to get into, but I think freestyle skiing, especially for kids to get into, I know growing up it was very very productive for self confidence and like building that identity. Right. It's like going out and landing a couple new tricks on ski club nights. Like that's such a boost to the
Yep.
morale of middle school, high school awkwardness of growing up. So it's really
It's
big.
my identity.
Yeah, identity and self confidence. Landing stuff. But again, you got the flip side. Like you're gonna fall a lot, and your friends are gonna laugh at you, and ski club's gonna make fun of you, and um, but that comes with the territory of an action
Yeah,
sport.
there's life lessons hidden in there. Uh, I think that's why, it's funny at 31. I still kind of chase adrenaline a little bit. It's hard to really get a good adrenaline rush. But I think back then, you slide your first rail, you do a 360. That rush
Yeah,
it's like a drug, man. It's an amazing feeling, and I think I know people don't feel it all the time, especially normal people. So I think that's why once you can get a grasp of it, it's like I gotta find that again.
yeah, yeah. If like I have friends that have never done action sports and they just don't get it.
Mm-mm.
It's
Nope.
they won't get it until they get it. Like they got to go out and do it.
Yep.
And
You gotta roll the dice sometimes, man. You gotta roll
yeah,
the dice.
yeah. My a motto I've had is, for better and for worse, it's like we have one body. Let's use it. Let's let's see what we can do with it. And there's limits to that, right? I've had a few injuries that have limited stuff, and um, obviously you're not going out and trying to injure yourself, but
My dad always told people calculated risk. I
Right.
mean, you're for me at least, everything's calculated to the, the exact, you know exactly what's going on. Like I never did anything. It was like, there was obviously times I crashed and, had some bumps and bruises and I had a couple major injuries, but um, everything was calculated. Like you knew exactly what was going on. And I think that's a good thing with the boot camp. You try to teach kids that, there's a right way to do things and there's a, like, you could do it, but you're kind of on the line there.
Right. Like you need to have an appropriate skill set.
Fundamentals are huge. Yep, yep.
Do you risk or do you calculate risk differently now that you're in your 30s versus when you're in your 20s? Because I know
Well,
I certainly do. That probably started when I was 26, 25. How do you look at that now?
honestly, it bummed me out at first. You just kind of like that time I was in down in Australia, New Zealand. I was at the time of my life. I just like you start thinking about like, well, like I'm getting a little bit older. I'm gonna have to, get a real job someday. I don't want to really break myself off. Um, but now it's just, I don't know. It is what it is. You kind of have to accept it. Um, like I said, you can still get the blood pumping a little bit. You just gotta you do it on a sunny day, and you gotta make sure
Right.
everything's right, and it's
Yeah.
the vibes are good.
Yeah. It's like good.
Just gotta be a little more calculated.
Yeah. It's like the checklist. All right. Is it sunny? Is it warm? Is the snow kind of soft? Are the rails not sticky?
Yep.
Is my body feeling good?
Am I? Yeah, exactly.
I feel like as I get older, the checklist gets a little bigger. You know.
Oh, it's 100%, and that's just part of it. But I always say, I had some guys that are, in their 40s that are still snowboard every day, mountain biking, doing all the things. It's like you just cannot stop. I even sometimes think, I'm in the park at 31 years old with a bunch of kids going around. Like it's almost like, am I immature for wanting to do this? But
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love hitting rails. I love doing, backflips or any trick, I love it.
Yeah. It's
And I hope I never stop.
I see it's your squad, and then I'm 32, turning 33 this winter. My brother's turning, what is he turning, 30, 29. And then I don't know if you know Ray Parr.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
he's in
yeah.
his 30s too. It's like all the old guys. We're still shredding out there. It's fun.
Still going there.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's cool that there's still some guys doing it. My group's we're still going a little bit. We're doing a little bit. Some of them are having kids, and which is awesome. I'm
Uh huh.
more so stoked for them. But it just we gotta keep it going.
Yeah. Did you have any? You mentioned some injuries. Talk about one or two that were pretty heavy.
So really one main one. So like I was telling you at the kind of the end of my career that I did those 3 years kind of traveling all over the world doing competitions. And then that summer in New Zealand, I was trying to decide what I was going to do. And this opportunity came up with Sam Adams. And it was like I'm basically like a circus performer. It was called the Air and Opera Show. We had like 8 stops all over the US.
Oh,
It
cool.
was basically a big air show at night.
Yeah.
I was it was great money. I was like, this is gonna be the easiest season. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna film, do tricks with my buddies. And the first show in Boyne, Michigan, that was maybe like 60 feet, and it was a really long in run, and it kind of flattened out at the bottom. And again, we talk about calculated risk. Didn't quite calculate it enough, and I went kind of like the old Simon Dumont crash. I just
Way too
took
good.
past the landing.
Yeah.
I said, jump was about 60 feet. I probably went every bit of uh, 95, 100. Landing was nowhere in sight. And I blew my knee, broke my leg. And that was sitting in the hospital. That was really the end of my career. And that kind of started the next chapter.
What was
But
that? What was that rehab process like for you?
so the biggest regret that season, I always stayed in shape. Not that I was never a big gym guy, but I think it's with a lot of people in my era. It was just you always were doing stuff to stay in shape, whether it was dirt biking, skiing, um, anything, mountain biking. So that was back then. But that summer, I think I just, I gained a little bit of weight. I wasn't taking care of myself as well. Um, and then when I got hurt, that's kind of, I was, laying in this hospital like, oh, you idiot. And then when I knew my knee was blown, my leg was broken. So the broken leg part really sucked because I had to, was immobilized for so long. Um, but once I started to get into PT, it was just a flip switch in my head. It's like you gotta grind like crazy. Like take this, look at the writing on the wall, need to, take care of yourself, figure out, and that's really and I honestly started to enjoy it. Like I really, really liked getting back in the gym, and even to this day, I love working out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It kind of sometimes it can kickstart, gym rat lifestyle a little bit more, because you see the benefits of it. You get in, a 12-month routine of, okay, I got to keep doing this stuff even after PT's over. Like you got to just keep maintaining and keep working on things.
it's kind
Um,
of too like you kind of saw benefits, obviously, anything it's like weight loss. You're not going to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. It's going to take 6 months. Um, and once, the first couple of times, as a physical therapist, they put the stim on your leg and you barely can lift it up. And you got a stick and bone for a leg, and you start a little bit of muscle growing and you get a little bit more weight, and then you start, doing some different movements, and you start jumping and you're like, oh man, I'm feeling good. And that kind of, um,
checking off the
yeah,
boxes.
it's like more of a checkbox. You just feel like your progression, I would say, was really cool. Um, and then again, you hate to learn from that kind of injury. But moving forward, I know, that day I definitely didn't stretch. I think I had a giant hot chocolate for breakfast and maybe an omelet or so, wasn't eating well. That whole day was bad. Where now, you know, you got to warm up. My foam roller is my best friend. Hit the
Yeah,
foam roller every morning before I ski, whether
nice.
it's at Boston Mills or I'm at Park City, and just, you got to warm up. And you just got to take care of yourself. Last year, um, I was 30. That was my 30th season. I think it was one of the best seasons I've had since, I was full-time competing. And I think it's 100% because I took care of myself. I was in the gym.
Yeah, I mean these sports you can continue to do for a long time. You just got to put a little more effort into it. You can't be a fat slob, right? You just can't,
No, and that, yeah,
or you're gonna bust yourself up, and then it's just not gonna be having fun. So, putting the time in the gym, putting the time in the cardio, like you're saying, whatever your maintenance work is, and whatever activity you like to do, it doesn't necessarily have to be powerlifting. It can be like you're saying, golfing, biking, motocross, like whatever. Just keeping your body active. And I've had friends that back in high school were in ski club and they just kind of fell off and let themselves go. And it's like, well, now they don't snowboard or ski anymore because they physically probably can't,
can't do it.
do freestyle anymore anyway. Um, yeah, I agree with all that. Do you enjoy skiing more now? I love this question. So do you like it more now or back when you were like in your prime of competition days?
I mean, obviously, like I said, I lived in Breckenridge, so I love skiing Breckenridge every day. That, it's hard to
Right.
beat. I love Brandywine, but skiing Park Lane on a Bluebird day is 10 out of 10.
That's probably when Breck was like the pinnacle, right? Like
The
Copper was
pinnacle. That
like
was,
Copper wasn't really there yet. It was like Keystone and Breck were one and two
yep.
out there. Yeah, okay.
That was the only places I didn't have a pass to Copper, but yeah, it was Breckenridge. It was the best park in the whole world, and now it's kind of non-existent. It's actually kind of sad.
Yeah, it's not great. It's fine.
No,
It's
no,
fine. No disrespect, but it's not like it used to be.
not like it used to be. Exactly. But to your question, I don't know if I'm having more fun. I had like I said, I didn't make the most money, but I made some of, my closest friends are still guys I met skiing.
Yeah.
I got to see the world a couple times. Um, I wouldn't change it for the world. So obviously you missed that. And just I miss doing a switched up 10. That was fun. Um, could I do it now? Probably, but it's again the risk versus reward.
Right.
I'll just, I won't do that. Those days are over. Um, but like I said, man, I skied almost 54 days last year, and I think 40 of them were at Brandywine.
Yeah.
And I always tell people I never leave that place saying, "Oh, this sucks," or "I wish I was somewhere else." Partially that's due to, the group of guys we ride with, shout out to the Firefox crew. Um, but I don't know. I don't know, you take what you got.
We're stuck in Ohio, man. We make the best of
Yeah,
it.
we're stuck in Ohio, exactly. But that, like I said, not to repeat myself, but I never leave that place saying, "Oh, this sucked." And even some of the worst days, you know, one of my buddy Mitch I ski with a lot. It was sheet of ice, kind of windy. We were at Boston Mills, and we got there like, this stinks. I think we started playing a game of slush or something like that, and we were doing little stuff like 50-50 that rail or 50-50 that, and that again, and we left that like that was kind of fun,
Yeah,
and it was literally a sheet of ice.
yeah,
So that was that stuff like that, man. It's hard to replace. I'll be the first to admit I probably sit in the parking lot and have beers too many times, but it's now kind of turned into a social thing too. I got guys that you only see during the winter time, so you take it there.
yeah,
But
yeah. We do the same. We grill up in the parking lot and have a beer
yep,
at
you can't beat
halftime,
it.
and yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
And again, that's back to kind of taking care of yourself. I have always was a little bit like I'm always a beer after. I'm gonna be there to ski, even at 31. I have no, obligations or whatever.
Yeah,
I want to go there, ski as hard as I can,
yeah.
and then I'll have a couple beers.
I would agree. I would agree.
And again, that's kind of comes back to, taking care of you. I just don't want to, again, the calculated risk, have a couple Pacificos at the bar and go, that's when it's, eh.
Yeah. No, I would like to be able to spin onto rails for as long as I can.
Yep.
You know, and
Never stop doing it and you should be fine. Or at least that's the plan.
that's the plan. Well, Fred,
That's,
thank you for the time today, man. I
yeah, man.
appreciate it. Well, we're at about almost 40 minutes now, so I know I don't like to listen to myself talk that long, so we'll
No,
try to keep these short. But we could definitely do this again. I'll see
awesome.
you. I'll be seeing you a lot this winter. Hopefully, I got to
Yeah,
get
dude, I look forward to it.
yep, got to get myself going a little bit with the knee injury. But it'll be fun. We'll do try to get some workshop together. We can try to work together with that this fall, get that rolling. So
Sounds awesome.
appreciate your time, man. It's cool to see a local guy's perspective. You know, you made it to the pinnacle of skiing, and it's fun to hear your perspective. So thank you for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, thanks, Freddie.
See you this winter.
Yes, sir.